Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition? Stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion. Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But
Assalamualaikum.
I was jamming for a minute there.
I
know. Love it.
Praises be to Allah.
Listen, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Come on in. We got a wonderful show this evening. I am your sister Michelle. I'm your moderator for this evening for Thursday Night Talks. And of course, I always like to, we're missing a team member here, if you guys haven't noticed. And you know what Brother Lau says when he's here. He's, go get your peoples, right?
Go get your people.
Go get your people, okay? We're live on Facebook. We're on YouTube. You can absolutely tune in to either platform to find us. Please share. We have wonderful information tonight. We're going to have a good discussion, and I want to make sure that nobody has any excuse to miss it. So take a moment, digest it in, share it out. And again, also too, when of course, when the show is over, you can always peruse. Of course, we're always here. There's always our great content. We've had some great guests on in the last, year, right?
Right.
So so we want to make sure that that we have all the types of information and resources that we believe that will be useful to save your life and possibly somebody else's life and be of a help to your community. So being that said, again, please like and share, and I will pass the baton as I can't go to Brother Lau, so I gotta go to you, sister.
Yeah.
Passing the invisible baton.
Yes,
virtual.
the invisible baton. I want to first start off in the most holy name of Allah, always bearing witness that there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. I would like to greet my family in a greeting raise of peace in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. Look, you remember in your grade school years, or even in your college years, you always had that teacher, like your favorite teacher. Like when you get older, you were like, you know what? This teacher right here, oh my God, this teacher taught me so much. I learned so much. Because of this teacher, I am who I am, or this teacher is because of this, all of these accolades that this teacher provided for you to make you become the person that you are. Well, guess what? We have a teacher just like this, or just like that on our show. I'm telling you, hold on to your seats because this is going to be a very educational ride, and I'm going to enjoy it every bump bruise, and success that we will make to get to the other side. And without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton to my dear brother. Oh, look at him. He's so
Come on.
Look.
I'm playing along with it. There you go. This makes y'all feel better, so I'm just playing along.
Thank you, brother.
I'm going along with it. In the name of the one God who bears many names, some know him as Jah, others know him as Jehovah, some know him as Dios, some know him as Bon Dieu, some know him as Alabdumare, some know him as the Great Wind or the Great Spirit. Regardless to the name that you call on the God, we encourage you to call on the God daily.
That's right.
And much more than just daily, but every moment that you can.
That's right.
I thank Allah who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. I am forever thankful to Allah for his wise choice and intervention in our affairs and raising from among us the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I thank them both for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Assalamu alaikum, family, and welcome to Thursday Night Talks. As we are the 7th Region Coalition to help save lives. The 7th Region Coalition was founded by our 7th Regional Student Minister Patrick Muhammad, after the criterion message of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as we were guiding our people not to take our open enemies' experimental vaccines. But the concept and the idea of saving lives is a lot more than just telling people and showing people why they should not succumb to experimental inoculation, if you will.
That's right.
But there are so many other factors involved in saving lives that right now the focus is on the 9 ministries. Saving lives via the 9 ministries introduced to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so with that, our focus tonight is education. And so the Ministry of Education is as follows. The mission of the Ministry of Education is to be responsible for the mental and moral development of the members of the Nation of Islam by means of formal instruction in a system of learning ranging from primary to advanced degrees under the direction of a National Board of Education. The educational system is known as the University of Islam and includes teachers, instructors, and staff who shall teach and train students in the way of righteousness, decency, and self-respect, with the goal of making a better nation of people. We ourselves, we are in the business of nation building.
That's right.
And so we have structurally the Nation of Islam as an institution, if you will, but there's the broader Nation of Islam, which encompasses all of our people.
That's right.
So we invite you to tune in tonight and to soak in and apply everything that is being taught and shared with our brother, who will be introduced in just a moment, about how to incorporate some certain strategies to ensure educational success, whether it be in the classroom or generally as we're dealing with the vicissitudes of life. And so with that, Sister Michelle, I turn it back over to you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, we are moving fast and furious.
Hey,
we're running good on time today.
Look at Brother Tony. He's so happy.
Well, I'm pumped up here.
Well, listen.
And just very briefly, Sister Michelle, for the viewing audience, I will be leaving a little early tonight. You could go to the Nuestra NOI page or to Closing the Gap tonight, as we will have a all Spanish program as we did over 2 weeks ago. You could go to Nuestra NOI or Closing the Gap following this program right here.
And as a matter of fact, to add to that, and thank you, Brother Tony, just a short, brief segue on this beautiful love offering.
Look, we need support because this platform right here, this is not free. This is coming out of the love and, our hearts and minds are being poured into this right here, but also our finances. So if there is any kind of way that you could support by making a donation, does not have to be a large donation.
But we would love a large donation.
We would love a large donation. Yeah. You got it. But
there you go.
Whatever Allah, God places on your heart to donate in order to ensure that we continue these beautiful programs that are geared towards saving lives, please make your donation to the Cash App address listed right there on your screen right now.
Wonderful. And thank you for that, because we absolutely need the support. Now, before we bring our brother up, I have to say that I'm very passionate about education. I am not a teacher. However, I had 3 young children at the time, right, that all needed an extensive amount of guidance. And because we know that the school system does not have the support system, I had to be that additional support system. And so I am very excited to hear what the brother has to say about education, or about education in general, about what it means, right, for education in our society as it stands today. Some of the challenges that we're having around different portions of the country, about what can be in the textbooks and what shouldn't be in the textbooks. And so we're getting into those types of things where it's really impacting how teachers and children, right, are receiving information, and just going through the school system itself. We know it doesn't support our children, right? It wasn't designed that way. But either way, before I get too much further into it, I want to read the brother's bio, and then Sister Kalila, if we can bring him up after that. So our special guest this evening is Student Minister Abdul Muhammad. And so I will be reading his bio into the record. Student Minister Abdul Muhammad joined the Nation of Islam in 1990 during his freshman year of college at Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and has been an award-winning, sought-after educator and public speaker. As a teacher, he was nominated and won the Teacher of the Year award for the city of Chicago. He has also been featured in Who's Who among American high school teachers 4 times. I don't know if anybody else doesn't remember that, but I sure do remember that. Furthermore, he was twice nominated for the prestigious Golden Apple Award. Currently, he serves as a high school principal in Chicago. And as a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Student Minister Abdul has developed into a powerful speaker with an ability to reach the hearts and minds of our young people.
I can bear witness.
Right. And he holds a bachelor's in secondary education and a master's in educational leadership. So we've got what we call an SME, a subject matter expert. So without no further ado, let's bring up Minister Abdul.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you for the introduction. I definitely am happy to be on the show. But definitely thank you for that introduction.
Praises be to Allah. Well, Brother Abdul, I am so excited. Like I said, I hate to be biased, right? But you're like one of my favorite
all
ministers.
Praises due to Allah.
Because I just think that you just keep it so real. It's kind of like one of those type energies that, you're always woke. It's like, Brother Minister Abdul gonna be on. Okay, I got to watch that one. I know, because he's coming straight from the heart, but not only straight from the heart. I can get my nephew Bebe and Ray Ray and Pookie and Lin and EI and Rimran. Bring them all, and they can understand.
Absolutely. And all praises due to Allah. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of the Master Prophet Muhammad. And I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is the Messiah and the exalted Christ. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is their divine reminder, warner, and servant. I would like to greet you and the audience with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum, and those words only mean peace be unto you. I thank you all for the introduction. I thank you for the invitation. I thank you for the feedback. We have to be able to connect with our people.
Yes.
And every teacher, right? Today we're talking about strategies for educational success.
Right.
Every teacher in the process of teaching, if you care about the student, right? If you have in your heart and mind love for the student and care for the student and students that you're teaching, then that love, care, and concern will cause you, will motivate you, will push you, will inspire you to develop a method to reach the mind of the person that you're trying to educate. You go throughout the world and people will say that we're not real Muslims because the way we were taught was different than the way they were taught. So the Arabs come, or the other Muslims, so-called Orthodox Muslims come, and because they don't have love, right? Because they don't have compassion, because they don't have care and concern for us, there's no concern about developing a way to get Islam into us and make us fall in love with Allah and Islam, right?
Right.
Any teacher who loves the student is going to develop a methodology to reach the mind of the student that they care about and that they love. So Master Fard Muhammad, because he loved us so much, right? Because there was so much love and compassion and concern and care for us,
Right.
that he studied 42 years. Why? He studied 42 years to develop a methodology to reach the mind of a blind, deaf, and dumb Negro. So that's all we're doing, sister. When you hear that, you know, Brother Abdul is speaking, and all the young people are like, oh man, you know,
right,
I can't
exactly.
take, you know, because you know why? You know, it's because Allah blessed me through working with the young people. The greatest blessing is what I received from working with them. And that blessing was to develop a way to teach, to reach the hearts and minds of our young people. So everywhere I go in the nation, everywhere I go across the country, the parents love me, right? I can't lie. The parents love me. They do. But they tell me, like, you know, like my son, my daughter, the young people, they love the way I teach, but it's a method that was developed over time because I wanted to reach the minds of the students that I taught.
Right.
And that transposed itself into my lectures. And now the young people in the nation and adults as well benefit from what I learned from my students. The greatest learning has been for me. They learn a lot, and they will tell you that, but the greatest learning has been for me because it's made me a more effective teacher. So we're talking about strategies for educational success. And I know, sister, that you said that I had a master's and a bachelor's, and that makes me a subject matter expert, and that's not true. Because I'm just a student. I'm not
so humble.
Very humble.
I'm a student of the expert.
Come on.
The expert in education is God himself. He is the expert because he is the maker, the creator, the fashioner of the human being, and knows the best method to develop, right? He's in the Holy Quran, his one of his attributes is al-Rab, meaning one who nurtures a thing from one stage to the next stage until it reaches its eventual perfection. So Allah is the expert. And we're just students trying to learn and practice what we've learned from sister and brothers. You all know I'm not disrespecting the education of the enemy, but it doesn't take you to the root. And because it doesn't take you to the root, then it doesn't give us what we need to address the issues. I'm not going to disrespect the education because education is hugely important, but I would not be the teacher that I am. I would not be anywhere close to the teacher that I am if it was not for the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I wouldn't be anywhere close.
Facts.
to the teacher. So it wasn't college I could take 1,000 classes at 1,000 colleges and would not have become the teacher that Allah has blessed me to be today with any of those classes. But it's because I have the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad that I can take what they give in those classes and sift through it and bring out the good and use it for our students and our people. So Allah is the expert. So is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And we're just students in the class.
That's right.
That have been given an opportunity to work out in areas that we would like to become experts in, but we're not experts. So I just wanted to kind of start with that. But the first strategy, if you are educated, the first strategy that I want to share is you have to develop a way to impart knowledge to the people that you're in front of, not have them. We want them to adapt to us rather than us adapting to them. It's their education. So we have to do the adapting. But if you don't have love, if you don't have care, my brother can bear witness.
Yes, sir.
He's in schools.
Right.
He sees teachers that don't have love and care and concern, right?
Right.
And they go in there and they'll write on the board or they'll talk to these students who are on there, for 45 minutes, and the students falling asleep, slobbing on the desk. He sees this. And they're in there writing on the board, talking, thinking that, well, they need to change.
Right.
But that's how you treat somebody you do not have love, concern, and care for. You're not going to come up and develop a way.
They'll come to you and start. They'll come up to you and start complaining that, like, the problem is
what's wrong with them? Right? They're coming into teachers' lounge and say, I don't know what's wrong with these students. I gave a whole 45-minute lecture, and there's 29 students in the class, and 30 of them were asleep. Right?
Right.
So, but
something wrong with your methodology.
Right, exactly. So, in what happens a lot of times is we put that off on the student, like it's something wrong. It's nothing. I've been working with our children my entire adult life. It's nothing wrong with our children. It's absolutely. I know the older people say, "Man, these children crazy." No, stop. I'm telling you right now, the problem is the adults. The problem is not the children.
I agree with this.
So we have to develop, because the adults are so set in their ways that they don't want to adapt their method for the people that they're dealing with.
Right.
And that's the same attitude that the Arabs have when they come and try to teach us Islam. They will invite you to the mosque and have you sit on the floor, right? They will invite you to eat and have you eat with your hands. No fork, no knife, no spoon, no napkin, nothing, So, but because there's not that level of love and care, and I want to transition this person in, right, to what Allah has revealed, then they don't have. But that's what Master Fard Muhammad did. He came and gave us a method to reach our minds, which you talking about people who were dead, right? Who couldn't speak their own language. We know, read their language, didn't have their religion, their culture. There was a time if you said Jesus was black, somebody's punching you in the nose.
That's
like, what are you talking about? Why would you disrespect my Lord and Savior by saying that he's black? But I mean, it's 2022.
Right.
You say that now, nobody, even if somebody disagrees with it, which most people won't. Now white people telling you Jesus black.
Right. Right.
But see, that is the Master Fard Muhammad developed the method to reach the mind of a dead person,
right,
and then bring them to life stage by stage. Why? How? He wasn't the first person who was a Muslim to come to the United States. He had the love that the others did not have and do not have. But we see that in education every day. So I mean, as a teacher, I may get criticism for the method, but the proof is in the pudding. I taught black boys, and the black boys had the highest grades in the class. Everybody talks about what we need to do. Well, we need to do something. We need to do something, but nobody does anything. They just say we need to do something.
Right.
So I actually did something for black boys, and we saw the highest grades in the class come from the black male student because we actually did something, as opposed to, I know I'm just talking.
No,
No. But I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, it's a two-part question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm hearing you talking, and I want to go because I'm trying to get back to this question. But
Okay.
I do know that I used to work for in New York what they call like an SES program. It's like a supplemental educational program, and it was targeted towards our black and brown babies. And what they did was they took a different approach or a different strategy, right? So what they did is they figured out that we don't learn the same. We don't, right? And so they realized that when they started to teach the children certain strategies and methods on how to learn math, how to read, how to, some of us are, what do they say, kinetic or right. Exactly.
Visual learners, right? You have different types of learners.
You have different types of learners. And once they tapped into that, they were able to start to see progress because the program was under review from the Harvard Review. And so what they did is they created these strategies with these students, and they were able to see actual results, right? Based upon how they were teaching the students opposed to how they typically teach them in the classroom. But that wasn't my question. My question was
that was a statement.
Right? Because I wanted to make
you were just opening up.
Right, exactly. I want to make sure that everyone understand that we don't all learn the same. And this is the strategy.
Right.
So it's important to make note of that. But I wanted to go back to the beginning, Brother Abdul, and talk about the purpose of education, right? We know education is important.
Okay.
Right, but what, in your words, would you define? Because you talked about it in the beginning, but I want to home it in. What is the purpose of education?
So that's a great question, and I just want to share from the master teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So the purpose of education, just to sum it up in one sentence, but I'm of course going to prove everything I say. The purpose of education is the development of self, right? When we look at the word educate means to bring forth, right? Now, the prefix, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us, the prefix at the beginning of the word educate comes from a Latin root word, educare, which means to bring out or to bring forth. But the prefix e means to bring out, right? So if I ask you a question to elicit a response, then the response is coming from where? It's coming from within, right? If we are driving down the street and we see an accident and that accident evokes emotions, the feelings are coming from where? The feelings are coming from the inside and they manifest themselves on the outside. When we're born through those stages where an embryo, a fetus, right? A newborn, a toddler, a child, right? These are the evolutionary stages of development, right? And at a certain point, we reach puberty and hair and other body parts start to develop. But those body parts and hair and things like they don't come from space, right? Right. And attach themselves to your body. The change, the evolution, right, comes from within and it manifests itself on the outside. When a volcano erupts, right? Erupts. We're not putting lava in a volcano. Man, that volcano erupted. Let's go put some lava in it. No. When the volcano erupts, the lava is coming out, right? So all of these examples, the prefix e, whatever is in is coming out, right? And I know, like, I'm not talking about anybody in the chat, but I might be talking about you. If you've ever been evicted, right?
Evicted, right?
On the door. Now, all Black people know this, right? You may not have known nothing I just said, but you know this. When the sticker is on the door of the eviction notice, you already know they're not putting you in an apartment. They putting you out, right? They putting your stuff out on the street, right? And your neighbors who you thought was your friends, they stole your stuff before you got home. Now, clearly, the prefix e means to bring out, right?
Right.
So when we talk about education, right?
Right.
The purpose of education is to bring out the gifts and talents that Allah, God, has put within every human being.
Wow.
Every human being. everyone
Wow.
has in them gifts and talents, not from their mother, not from their father, not from Uncle Ray Ray, gifts and talents from God himself. Every human being is born with gifts and talents. The purpose of education is to feed the child knowledge, or the student knowledge, and through the acquisition of knowledge, you put that child or that student on a path of discovery, and over time, that student, that child discovers what their gifts and talents are. Allah, you know, I know when I was young and I was in the nation, and maybe you felt the same way. And when you try to follow God and you do everything right, you think God owes you something. God don't owe you nothing, right? So when I was a young Muslim, I'm thinking like, man, like I'm trying to be good, I'm trying to be right. Why don't Allah just give me the answers to everything? Why, you know, how that would be so boring.
Right.
If we were born and had we're educators, right?
Right.
If you just give the students the answer to the test, there's gonna be no effort, and most of them gonna fail it because they gonna figure like, man, I got the answers, right? So the purpose is about the self-discovery, right? It's about the journey to discover who, not to discover anybody else, but yourself. The greatest knowledge we taught, right? The greatest knowledge that you can learn is the knowledge of what? Self. The knowledge of self. We teach that the knowledge of self and the knowledge of God is one and the same. So now, not part of the knowledge of self is the knowledge of our history that we've never been. That's a small part of the knowledge of self. And it is very right. That is the beginning stages of the knowledge of self, because when you learn about the greatness of your ancestors, it helps you to frame in your mind your potential to be great. That is part of the knowledge. But the real knowledge, or I would say deeper knowledge of self, is the knowledge of the person that Allah brought through your mother, right? And that is discovered through the process of education, real education, and through that journey of self-discovery. Go ahead, my brother.
Brother Abdul, just in that in mind, I'm bearing witness to everything that you have to say. I had a student recently at the close of last school year. He was graduating. He was bringing back a library book to the middle school. He needed to turn it in. He held it for, I think, like 7 years or something crazy like that. Right. And he had to turn it into the library because he wasn't being allowed to graduate. He came to me, and it was something very humbling that was said to me as an educator. He said to me that you gave me some tools that I absolutely needed. I'm going to be going to the University of, I think he said some university in California, and I'm going to be majoring in architecture. You told me that our ancient ancestors were master builders. Well, I wanted to become a master builder myself.
Right. Praise be to Allah.
How important is it as a skill to present on an interdisciplinary level, trying to show the student different aspects of life so that they could find themselves?
Right. Yeah, brother, you know, that is hugely important.
Right.
Yeah. So we can't. So here's what I would share with my students. I would always, in giving them the knowledge of self, I would talk to them about the man who built the first pyramid, who was named Imhotep. Right.
Right.
So anybody who knows Imhotep, which most of our children do not, they know that Imhotep was an astronomer, right? He was a doctor, he was a philosopher, he was an engineer, he was a mathematician, and maybe 10 other things, right?
Not an evil Caucasian.
Yeah, not an evil Caucasian. I would always bring up the movie The Mummy, right? And say, you know, and put the fake Imhotep versus the real Imhotep. I did forget about that. Not the evil mummy, right? So, but now I would always tell them, before we were brought in slavery, we never limited ourselves to just one thing. You just didn't say, well, I'm just going to be this, or I'm just going to be that. because we didn't want to limit ourselves to one profession or one thing. And that's not everybody. But what we're doing is opening up the realm of possibility, which is what you did. And that is the purpose of us learning our history. So when that history is not taught, and it's not, then the realm of possibility becomes very limited. But when it is taught, then the realm of possibility becomes very unlimited. And I have students who I've taught who have moved on to do a lot of great things. I had a student who was featured in Black Enterprise magazine, the top 30 under 30. One of my former students. And so if you ask him, man, what was your inspiration? He's going to say my inspiration was when I was in high school with Mr. Muhammad, you know. I'm just telling you, this is true. I have a student who has written maybe about 5 or 6 books, and one of these books, children's books. And in one of these books, in one of these children's books, he has his teacher, Mr. Muhammad, who's teaching him Black history facts, right? And encourage him. So, I mean, it's just those are the impacts that Allah blesses us to have. But we have to be in the schools to give our children that knowledge so we can open up that realm of possibility. Because what's missing with our children is the knowledge of self. They lack that. And that's what's sorely needed.
Ooh, I'm gonna jump in and ask this next question.
So can I just jump back to your question, sister? Because I gotta bring my brother LeBron James to the witness stand. So
I love the witness stand.
Now, you all, I'm gonna say this. I'm in Chicago. I'm gonna watch my back when I leave the house, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway. LeBron James is the greatest basketball player in the history of the NBA. Now I know, like, it's brothers right now. See, brother, see.
Look.
Because see, you was my brother till you said, I understand, bro. I know you mad, you emotional. But LeBron James, the reason I say that is because he's the only basketball player that took his wealth and opened a school for Black children. So as an educator, like, you can't bring nobody else that's gonna top. He shot a basket. Oh wow, that's what you bringing. He dunked. That's what you brought. Okay, you can't bring nobody to me as an educator that is going to do better than that, educating the next generation of Black children. So that's why LeBron, even though he is great on the basketball court, to me, he is the greatest. But if we look at LeBron James, who is extremely talented, did the coach give him talent? Did the coach give LeBron James the talent that we see on the basketball court?
No, sir.
So, of course he didn't, right? This is natural inborn talent. So now, and all of us have that. All of us have gifts from God right now. Right. So then the question is, if LeBron James and all of these people who we like are so talented, why do they need a coach? So this is where, because you have people right now who in their mind, they say that they don't want to follow, like, I can't follow Farrakhan. Like, why would I follow? Like, because they don't understand. Yeah, God, the minister didn't give any one of us the talents that we have. Not a single one, right? But what he did give us was knowledge of self, right? And open up so that what God put in could come out. Are y'all with me? So in science, right? In chemistry, right? So we were never taught the knowledge of chemistry, but in chemistry, whenever you do a chemical experiment, there's something in the experiment that's called a catalyst, right? And the catalyst is the thing that causes the reaction. So you could have baking soda and you could have dishwashing liquid, right? And you can mix them together, but you're not going to make your little volcano with just baking soda and dishwashing liquid. Right. Because the catalyst has not been added to the chemicals, right? So what's the catalyst? You need vinegar. Vinegar is the catalyst that causes the reaction for your volcano to explode, right? So absent the catalyst, there is no reaction. You take the spark plugs out of a car, right? There's nothing to cause that gas to set on fire to move that engine. So once the catalyst is removed, you're not going anywhere. Are y'all with me?
Yes.
So now, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the catalyst.
Come on.
He is the one that causes the reaction or the change. How does he do it? All the social scientists, they ask, oh, how does he do? Are they pulling them in a room and making them change? No, it's because he gives us the knowledge of self. He's not giving us talent. He's not giving us skill. God gave us that. But what
Right.
he's given us is the knowledge to apply those talent, to access the talent, to access the skill, right? So it's the same. All of those players that we love, that we look up to, that we have tatted on our shoulder, we know they stats better than we know the lives of our children. All of those players have a coach, but you don't want no coach. You just want to be out there, right?
That's
The Honorable
right.
Minister Louis Farrakhan is the spiritual coach for the black man and woman. You got the talent. You have God sitting right up inside of you. You know God is in you. You feel his presence in you, but you can't bring it out because you don't have the catalyst in your life to bring out the spirit of God that is already within you, that God deposited himself in you. So I would say that you need to access the master teacher,
Come on.
the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, so we can access the God and the spirit of God that's in each and every one of us. I just wanted to add that. My sister.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. I'm going to go to this one. So the next question is, education, we know, is the key, right? It's all about application.
Absolutely.
Right? So the question is, what level of importance do you feel education should play in our communities as a whole? I think you've touched on that as well, but especially in our Black and brown communities, because I'll tell you this and I'll let you answer. I know that, like I mentioned, I had 3 young boys, and of course, they were a handful, and I had to be their advocate in the school system. But I will tell you that this is that at one point, and my youngest got to high school, I remember going against a white woman who was a head of the IEP program there at that school. And so I had, it was a discussion about where they were going to place my son, and she was going to decide where she wanted to put my son. And I said, well, I got a difference of opinion. So long story short, I went down to the Board of Education and I pushed and made sure that what I wanted from my son was done. And when I got back to the school, the principal was Black, and he said to me, and this is why I'm asking this question, he said to me, he said, I won't say my last name, but he said, you are the only, which I was a little scared. I was only Black mother that stood up and made sure that I had what I wanted to happen with my son. It happened, and it happened on my terms. So now I want to go back to that question, because a lot of times that's not what's happening.
Absolutely. Brothers and sisters who are listening, I can't, and my brother Tony, he knows this because he's in the educational system. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan described the educational system as the killing fields. And it's absolutely that. If you're not in it, then you can't see it. And it doesn't start in high school. It starts in kindergarten, right?
Right.
So that is just what it is. It's like I started. If you're dealing with people who don't have love, care, and concern for your children, they're not going to make the decision that best benefits your child. They're going to make the decision that's most beneficial to them, or whatever is easier for them, but they're not going to make what's in the best interest of your child. And the issue that we face in the Black community and Hispanic community is, we're not sophisticated. If you go to the wealthier neighborhoods, those parents know exactly what to ask for, exactly how to demand it. So they have that skill set, like you said, to advocate. Black people have not really been taught to advocate for themselves, especially with white authority. We advocate all day and night in a disrespectful way with Black authority, but we don't advocate. And we've never been taught to advocate for ourselves and our children, especially with white authority. So, so that's not white people's fault, quote unquote, but that's something that as a leader, as a Black person who is a leader in a school, I understand that dynamic. So as the school leader, I have to advocate for the Black parent who I know is not sophisticated enough to advocate for themselves, right?
Right.
So, but how many schools is it? How many schools are our children in? Every school is not going to have a Black leader, and every school is not going to have a leader even if he's Black or she's Black, that's going to advocate and be conscious enough to advocate for Black children. So what happens, right? what happens is those that really don't have our best interest at heart start to make decisions for our children, but we have to be there to advocate. You know, so I will say that, and I have to say this: education. You asked how is the most important thing that we can do for our children is to give them a proper education,
Right.
because the reality of Black people's lives is not going to change. The reality of our Hispanic brothers and sisters' lives is never going to change if we do not have a proper education. Now, if you look at the Jewish community, the most important thing, now you can criticize them about whatever you want to criticize them about. You can say whatever you want to say about them. The most important thing in their community is education.
That's right.
It's the most important thing. So now you say, or we say that if you go in the legal field, they're at the top of law. They're at the top of science. They're at the top of math. They're at the top of education. They're at the top of post-secondary education. The question is, why are they at the top?
Right.
Part of the reason is because their focus for their children is education. So now you say, well, I'm not going to say you say. The only leader that I would say that taught us to value education in a similar fashion and a greater fashion than the Jewish community is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
Now, I'm not taking anything away, because Booker T. Washington was indeed a very great man for education. Mary McLeod Bethune was a very great woman for education. The difference is that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted us to be separate and to educate ourselves separate from the enemy, right? So now, if you look at the nation plan that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad put in Muhammad Speaks, right? If you've seen it, some of you have. You had at the top, you had Muhammad Mosque, right? Then if you come down, you had all of the businesses, right? And then those businesses filtered down into other businesses, right? And everybody, you know, when they look at that, they always focus on the businesses, right?
Right.
But what most people don't focus on is you have Muhammad Mosque here, and then down and over you have Muhammad University, right?
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And under Muhammad University, which is not connected to those businesses, the businesses come from out of the mosque. Then you have all the businesses, right? So people really don't focus on that. But what was he saying? The most important thing after the mosque is only to wake us up, right?
Right.
And I'm only going to get so much success with people who've been in the world for 30 years and then decide to change their life. I'm only going to get so much out of them, right? But now, if those people are intelligent enough to put their children in the school, right, then everything that we want that's under here, those children will develop everything that's under there. But it comes from education. It's not going to just come from a Sunday lecture. It's not, you know, the Sunday lecture is for inspiration, right? And for us to change our lives as evangelical. But the change that we're looking for is not going to come from a Sunday lecture. It's going to come from us properly educating our children, and our children who are properly educated going into every field of endeavor and becoming the leader in every field of endeavor, like the Jewish community has done. You can't fault them for that. You can't fault them because they made education the number one priority for their children. You can't. We need to make education the number one priority for our children.
That's right.
So education is extremely important. And I'll say this, and I'm done. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I know he said this in a believers meeting, and I'm sure you remember. He said that we could lose everything. The farmland, all the businesses, all that we worked for, right? We could lose it all, but we have to keep the school open, right? And then I want to say he said at least 3 or 4 mosques, like Chicago, New York. I don't remember the other one. So that's your city, and you mad at me? Just talk to me on Savior's Day. But my point is that his focus was that no matter what happens to the nation,
right,
the school has to remain open.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
And let me say this, because I would be remiss in my duty if I didn't say this, because a lot of us don't understand the value of Mother Clara Muhammad and what she did to pioneer independent education.
Right.
When the most honorable Elijah Muhammad was arrested and in prison because he refused to join the war effort, right?
Right.
To kill people who didn't do anything to black people. And the enemy, even though he was past the draft age, they arrested people that was 80 years old.
Right.
Because they didn't want him on the street teaching black people that we shouldn't be going to war and we have nothing here, right? And then right after that war that he taught us not to go into, they lynched black people in their uniforms, right?
That's right.
So when the most honorable Elijah Muhammad was in prison, the Chicago Police Department went to the home of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and Mother Clara and tried to force Mother Clara to put her children or their children back. Now, he's not there to defend them.
Right.
Put the children back into the educational system of the enemy. But Mother Clara told the police she was not going to put her children back in. And that is the beginning of independent education for black children. Everybody benefits from the sacrifice of the Nation of Islam.
That's right.
All of the homeschoolers, all of the independent schools, all of you benefit, but you didn't pay the price. The Nation of Islam paid the price so that you could have an independent school and teach whatever you want to teach. You didn't go to jail for that. You didn't have the police kick down your door for that. You didn't have the police threaten to lock you up if you didn't send your children to school. Black, white, Asian, whatever your religion is, Jehovah's Witness, whatever, Mormon, whatever you are, you didn't pay the price to be able to educate your children without the influence of the enemy. It's in vogue now. But the Mother Clara and the early Muslims are the ones that paid that price. So we can't talk about education and not bring up the name of Mother Clara Muhammad, who is a pioneer in education, especially for our children.
Praises be to Allah. You know, I have a go ahead.
No, please. You haven't asked a question yet.
I know, because I'm just like I said, I'm like brother. Look, brother, I'm Minister Abdul say I'm a student right now, so I'm just so let's bring it into this now. We're close to open enrollment. This is time when the students are coming back. Right. Or some schools have already opened the 1st of August. What can you tell or guide the teachers as well as the parents in regards to the students coming back to school? Because we've been having some really trying times, especially with COVID, the adjustments that have been made. And to be honest with you, I think when we were out for COVID, you know, the powers that be was taking more money out of the school system and then say, okay, there you go. Now you had 4 books. Now you only have 1. Oh, now you don't even have a copy machine. Oh, now we're going paperless. Oh, this is a paperless environment now. So everything is done, you know, manually. What can you give or tell the teachers as well as the students
parents,
to prepare for upcoming?
So what I would tell the teachers is in your question about COVID, that, you know, COVID was a monster for everybody. And we know that it was Allah's will.
Absolutely.
And it was a pestilence from heaven. But we also know that when judgment comes, as the Holy Quran says, it will not punish those who exclusively are unjust. So it's other people that are going to be impacted. You know, it's like when you were growing up and your brother did something, right? Or sister, and your mama was mad. It's like whoever was in the area was getting a whooping or getting slapped, right? My mother was driving the car, and I was the one. So I know because I was the one, right? I was the one that shut up and be quiet and do this. And so she's driving, right? And so she's reaching back trying to slap me and slaps my brother, right? Now she's gonna get me at a certain point, right? I'm gonna get mine. But sometimes when Allah's wrath comes, against people who may not necessarily be the object of his wrath. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes.
So COVID was like that. COVID had a great toll on the world, right? Just the whole world, right? So how, as an educator, when you have students coming back, the Holy Quran describes the word for man, al-insan, right? It doesn't mean man, right? It means a social being, right? Because human beings were their nature of the human being is to socialize with other human beings, right? This is the nature. That's why social media is so huge. It's the nature of the human being to socialize, right? So now when we all had to go inside and we could not build those relationships, then you had more depression, more suicide, all of that stuff manifested itself. Myself and my brother had students who left home to escape madness, to escape drug abuse, to escape all types of stuff that happens in these homes that you don't know about if you're not an educator. And school is an 8-hour escape from the insanity that's going on in the home. So now you telling me that I gotta stay in this place where the only reason I could survive is because I had an escape for 8 hours. And now I'm doing after school, I'm playing football, I'm doing everything I can not to go back there. I'm just going there to sleep and eat. But now you telling me I gotta do school from this place. I'm running away. That's what happened. I'm running away. I'm because I can't live here. Or me and my mama, we don't get along, so she's putting me out, right? Or I'm gonna go live with my boyfriend, right? Or I'm gonna commit suicide because this is what happened. From COVID, it manifested all of these things, right? Go ahead.
In light of that, beloved brother, as like the last question I'm going to be able to ask here, because in the classroom and in schools, we've been dealing with children, young people that have been depressed. This has been this really has come out after COVID. COVID didn't cause that,
but
it
just manifested.
In us being it just manifested what was inside of us.
Absolutely.
Has what techniques or what strategies have you
used? That's what I was getting to. So as an educator, knowing this, right now, you have to have love, care, and concern, right? And knowing where your children are coming from and what just happened for the last 2 years. So now you have to be intentional as an educator to build these relationships with students who may not have seen inside of a school building in 2 years, right? You have to intentionally build these relationships and give these students space to readjust to being back in this environment. The social aspect of education is extremely important. I used to say, I'm talking about me. Not a lot, but I did say these children only come to school to socialize. You hear people that say that. What's wrong with that? Now, after COVID, my view has totally changed. What's wrong with that? We learn better as groups. This is why we have study group.
That's
on Friday. You can study as an individual, right? That's why we have Juma. Why do we have Juma? Your prayer, your salat has value. But your salat is not your 5 daily prayers in one day is not as valuable as a Juma congregational prayer. Why? Because we're all together, right? The one battery, you got one AA battery, and you put it in the back of the remote. And you can't do nothing. You don't have enough juice. You do what you need to do, but you have one battery.
Right.
So you can be like, but I got one. That's you saying your prayer by yourself. Right. But now when you bring all of them together, right?
My God.
Now what happens to your power when they're together? So that's the power of being in a social environment, but learning at the same time. It's all of the minds together that make the endeavor more powerful. This is why Juma prayer, you did, and I'm not telling you don't pray, because Negroes will twist it.
Right.
Just go to Juma. That's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying. So, but that's the social aspect. So as a teacher, then you need to create opportunities for your children to socialize, right? To get to know each other, to get to know you, build those relationships. You got to do that. or you're going to have what we had. My brother can bear witness. When the students came back in, they ain't know nobody. They didn't care about nobody because we didn't build no relationships, right? Mamas didn't know nobody. Mamas didn't care about nobody. Neither did the daddies or the uncles. So as soon as something happened, it was popping off in every school across the country.
Right.
Because there were no relationships built for the last 2 years. And the mamas who didn't know Brother Tony, like Brother Tony, we know he's a good brother. But the mama who ain't been in the school in that, she didn't know. So once she heard what happened? Somebody talked to you funny? Oh, I'm coming up to the school. And now the mamas was on that, right? Ray and them called the boys out the hood, right? So all of that happened across the country. We had the pandemic, but then we had the pandemic of the students returning back to the school.
I'm
as a teacher, you got to be intentional to build. He's laughing because I'm telling you.
I'm completely bearing witness because
I haven't been all these children.
You have all these children coming back from COVID with their hoodies on, and so I've seen a lot of principals and administrators not understanding, teachers not understanding why these children have these hoodies on and are just like this with their masks on, this. They're uncomfortable, so they wear the hoodies. It could be like down here in Miami, it's like 90 something degrees.
They got a hoodie on.
They have the hoodies on. Why? Because they feel uncomfortable. It's the hoodies that bring comfort to them. You got to meet them where they are.
Absolutely.
Like children after COVID, like I would just go up to them and talk to them like they're looking at me. You want to talk to me?
Right.
We have to force them. Yeah, I want to talk to you. We force them to become social. And whenever Brother Abdul, whenever I experienced the breakthrough moments where I saw children socializing with one another when they were not socializing before, like all praise is due to Allah.
And we have to create those opportunities. We have to create them. We have to be intentional. So that's what I was telling the educators also, and that's on coming back from COVID, right? But now, as far as in the classroom, I'm going to give every educator the greatest jewel that I can give you right now, and I'm not going to charge you, and I'm not going to ask you to buy anything. The greatest thing that you can do in your classroom is give your students who are in front of you the knowledge of who they are. It's the greatest thing you can do. Give them the knowledge of self, incorporate that into what you're doing. That is the greatest thing that you can do, and it will enhance the education. So as a teacher on the social side, you have to be intentional to build relationships. On the educational side, I'm telling you, I lived it. The greatest thing you can do is give them the knowledge of self, right? For the parents, now every educator is not going to do that. And I'm talking to people that it may not be a Black teacher in the school to give them that knowledge.
Right.
And that's just the reality. So as a parent, what you have to do is you have to create opportunities to talk to your children. A lot of times, we're working, and I understand because I work. When I get home, it's like, man, I'm done. Like the life has been sucked out of me, right?
That's true.
I'm done. Like I got to recharge. That's just reality. And I know that parents, that is true, right? I don't judge parents because I understand. It's report card pickup. Like, damn, I ain't, why am I like, I'm tired, so that's real. But now for the parents, we have to take time because everybody's in a different situation. You may be in a place where you don't have somebody giving your children the knowledge of self. You may have somebody telling them that George Washington never told a lie. You have somebody telling them, this critical race theory, and all this. What you parents don't know, here's what you parents don't know. That when you send your child to the school, your bright, intelligent child that you watch from birth up until school age, and you see how smart they are, and then you send them to school and then the light goes out. You don't understand why. You think they just turned against school. That's not what happened. Your child went to school and was so, especially your Black boys, and were so confident and was so in wanted to learn and was learning. And a teacher put a needle in the brain of your child. And that happens in different types of ways.
That's right.
The teacher could, your child could want to comment because your child is intelligent and wants to, and the teacher just shuts your child down in the classroom.
Yep.
And what happens is every day that your child is going to give less and less and less.
Yes.
The way the teacher is responding to your child
Yes.
Or your child in the classroom could be the butt of the teacher's jokes.
Yep.
And now your child has now turned against. Now this is the educator.
Right.
The educator is making me the butt of the jokes, and so now I'm turning against the education. Or in the case, I use Malcolm X as an example.
Right.
Malcolm said that when he was in 8th grade, he told his teacher, "I want to be a doctor.
Right.
I want to be a lawyer." And the teacher said, "Brother," he didn't say brother. He said, "Malcolm, you'll
He
never
didn't say brother.
He definitely didn't say brother. He said, "You'll never be a lawyer. Black people are not going to hire a black lawyer, and certainly white people are not going to hire a black lawyer. But you work well with your hands. You should be a carpenter." That's when Malcolm X dropped out of school. That's the needle in the brain of Malcolm Little, telling him you're not going to amount to anything.
And then he said, Brother Abdul, he said Jesus was a carpenter.
Right.
And so now, their religion is also incorporated into
absolutely. He used the religious veil to put the needle in the brain to ease it in, right? So now you may say, man, if somebody said that to my child, I'll be up at that school. Yeah, I know. But guess what? The teachers you dealing with are more sophisticated. They know you'll be up at the school. So they're not going to say that. But guess what they will do? If your child if you don't sit and talk to them, you're not going to know. So if your child goes to the class every day and the teacher don't teach them nothing, y'all can do whatever. Just, and I'm on the internet. I'm surfing right. This is what happened. My brother sees this. I'm reading the newspaper. I'm at the door socializing with another teacher, and you can do whatever. It's a free for all, or it's nothing happening, right? This happens in black schools all the time. Half the class sleep. Now that they got Chromebooks, they on YouTube, right? They're not,
right.
The teacher's not like it's like whatever. Well, I can't do anything, right? So now, what is the teacher saying? Actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
The teacher verbalized it. The teacher articulated the needle in the brain. But now, if I come in the classroom for 40 weeks and I just don't teach you anything, I just let you watch what's her name? Not Beyonce. Cardi B. Nicki Minaj. You just on YouTube, right?
Right.
What am I saying? What I'm saying is you're never going to amount to anything.
My God.
Because if I thought that you would amount to something, I would spend my time teaching you something. But since deep down, I don't feel you're going to amount to anything, I'm not going to waste my time teaching you. So that's the same thing that happened to Malcolm. Right. One person articulated it with words.
Right.
One person did it with actions.
Right.
But what the result is the needle in the brain, and it turns black children against it. The result is the same. So this is why you got children dropping out. This is why you got them fighting in school and this, that, and the third. Because as I said in the beginning, that love, that concern, that care. Sisters and brothers, I'm telling you, I taught for 17 years. And if you ask my children, man, Muhammad, when we gonna get some free time? Free time? When is the last day of school?
What's free time?
Well, free time is the day after the last day of school. Ain't gonna be no free time. All I got is 40 weeks to give you as much as I can.
Come on.
Because I'm not gonna see. I may not see you after these 40
free time.
Weeks. So we don't have time for no free time.
And speaking of time, we're gonna take, because you in it, brother. We're gonna take a small segment.
Great. Okay.
And hear
from, I was Floyd Mayweather. I don't need.
I see. Boom, 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 boom. Up. So we're gonna take a small segment.
Okay.
And then we're going to segue to our dear beloved and our champion, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan,
the master teacher.
The master teacher.
This wonderful season of Ramadan. The subject matter that Brother Larry has given me to talk on is a nation of readers. My question is, what shall we read? Why shall we read? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that everything that any of us would want to know, we'll find it somewhere in a book. Even our own lives have already been written. And you just have to know where to read to find yourself.
My God.
So that's not the object of reading.
Mm-hmm.
The first words that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, heard in the cave at Mount Hira was the word Ikra, read. A command was given to a man who could not read, but yet he was commanded by Allah through the angel Gabriel, read. And that word read, that command, is the command of God today to all of us who languish in the bowels of ignorance, where our greatness can never be manifested until and unless we learn not only how to read, but what to read and why reading is required. Not of some, but of all. Not of the young, but of the young and the old. If you're 120, read. Because no matter how long you live, we will never exhaust the wisdom of God.
That's right.
So we read from the cradle, or we learn to read from early in our lives, and we never stop until death overtakes us. There's no such thing as retirement from reading. There's no such thing as retirement from study. The way we older folks keep our minds alert, sharp, ready, is that we continue to read and we continue to think on what we read, and we continue to analyze what we read, because to be critical thinkers, we must also be critical readers. So what shall we read? Well, the God who told Muhammad to read, he was also giving him a book for humanity to read. There is no other book more valuable to read than that which God reveals for the destiny of human beings. The Word of God, whether you find it in Bible or Quran, is more valuable if understood. The real value of anything is never ascertained through misunderstanding. I just feel kind of good, you know. This is Ramadan, and when we read right words with the right heart, seeking understanding of what we read, the spiritual energy that comes from that reading electrifies the cells and energizes the human spirit. So when Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit," man, that's something. How could a man be blessed and be poor in spirit? Now, you know, if you poor materially, that's not a blessing. But to be poor in spirit is worse than being poor materially. Because spirit, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, is the energy of life itself. And when you're poor in spirit, that means that the life force of your being is being strangled by another force that's limiting the energy of your being to accomplish what it is that God intends for you to accomplish. Sin strangles the human spirit. Violation of divine law strangles the human spirit. So most human beings have broken spirit because sin has kept the energy of their life force curtailed.
Praises be to Allah. Listen, just based off of reading.
That's right.
Right? Reading the right thing, taking in the right information, creating the right energy.
Absolutely.
Sister Michelle, you had a question?
Yes, because I want to get into what he was talking about when the minister first started talking, and the importance, right, of reading and learning. So my question is, and again, only from experience, is we know that, and I tell this to my children when they were younger, when you realize that there are gaps or there's misunderstanding, you know, we're taught to go back, right? Go back over it again, right? Until you figure out what you're missing or what was missed, to be able to put things in place so that you can move forward. You can't move forward if you don't get what you did not get.
Right.
So my question is what do you do when gaps in early learning, and it could be applicable in any scenario, right? And early learning are, what do you do when gaps in early learning are discovered? That's number one. And what steps should be taken to help close the gap or gaps in learning to create a strategy or path for success for the student?
So thank you, sister. That's a great question. When you're dealing with educational gaps, so the first thing you have to do is identify what those gaps are, right? In education, we have a thing called a benchmark, right? A benchmark is only an assessment to kind of see where the student is, right? And that is, again, if we use the example that we talked about before, the greatest knowledge is the knowledge of what?
Self.
The knowledge of self. So the first thing I need to know is what it is are my strengths, my weaknesses, the things I know, the things I need. So I need to understand where I am. And so that's what the student has to understand, that this benchmark assessment lets them know where they are. This is neither good nor bad.
Right.
It's just letting you know where you stand. And then when you end that assessment, you see the skills where the student is deficient. And then you work to address those specific skills, like you said, in order to close that gap. But it starts with understanding self, understanding where you are, right? The way we get that in education is called a benchmark assessment. And then once you kind of see where you are, it makes no sense to address an area where you're strong, right?
Right.
It's like you wasting time dealing with something that's a strength, right? You want to deal with these areas where there's deficiency. And today, because of technology, and we talked about quite a few things, but because of technology, we can address the skill deficits in an easier way, or more directly, even outside of the school, because there's so many different ways to address skill deficits in reading, right? Skill deficits in math, or whatever the case may be, because we have access to the technology now, right?
Right.
But you start that with a way to determine where the student is, and then based on that, you address those skills, and that's how you close the gap. The thing that we have to understand about education is like, this is learning, right? When we were growing up, who may be a little bit older, it was only about the right answer. Oh, you got the wrong answer. And that's not science. The science don't work like that.
Right.
Science is about experimentation. So we're gonna do this, this, and this, and we're gonna see what happens. And we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna try this. So in that experimentation, right, there are multiple failures and then coming back, right? So when we're educating a child and they make mistakes, sometimes we want to give them or help them, and the mistake is part of it. When we look in the Supreme Wisdom, what does it say? It doesn't say that mistakes will not be made, right?
Right.
It says that mistakes shall not exist, right? So once we make a mistake, then we have to correct the mistake that we made. But making mistakes is a part of the learning process, right? We all did it, right?
Right.
And but in education, historically, what it's been is you're rewarded for the right answer, right? And you're not rewarded for the wrong answer, right?
Right.
And that's not how education should work. The way that it should work is, let's say your child has the wrong answer. Then we want to have a conversation about how did you arrive at that answer? So then you can get to the real root of where the child went wrong. If you provide the answer, then it doesn't change the thinking. And then you provided the answer and then gave them a problem just like it, and they made the same mistake because you didn't correct the thinking. Right. And then you saying, man, what's wrong with you? You keep making this. It's nothing wrong with them. The problem is the way that we're approaching the teaching, right?
Right.
When they have the wrong answer. What did you do? Tell me what you did. Oh, okay. So, and then what did you do? Okay. And then let them explain it, right?
Right.
And question them and help them to arrive at where they went wrong. That is the learning process. But we have to know where the student is, and then we have to address those specific skills. And parents today, like, there's so much software, there's so many tools, there's so many online classes, is so much out there that you can give your children the best education, and all of that stuff does not cost money. There's a lot of great free resources out there as well. That was a good question, sister. Thank you.
No worries.
I want to talk about adult learning.
Okay.
Because dealing with gaps and not really dealing with the gap and still moving on as now we're adults.
Right, absolutely.
When I was growing up, education was a little different, of course. And when I was in the third grade, I started noticing that I was not learning as effective as the other children in the school. So I struggled third grade. My teacher noticed it, but she liked me. I was a likable student.
Right.
So she didn't want me to be left behind with, people that I did not know or my peers. So she, actually took me to fourth grade, right?
Promoted
you. Right, promoted me. Thank you. And so now I'm in the fourth grade. I'm struggling even worse than third. Third, I barely made it, right? But fourth is like, what is going on?
Right.
So, and it's so funny because I end up having the same teacher in third and fourth. So she was like, so it was God saying, girl, don't do that no more. Don't promote that girl no more. So now that she said, okay, well, we're going to have to retain you in the fourth grade. I get this teacher that's in the fourth grade. So this fourth grade teacher was like, Kalila, I don't know how you got this far, but you're here. And so what I'm going to do is put a Band-Aid on the skill that you have. And we're going to have the fifth grade teacher to figure it out. So now I'm in fifth grade.
Right. Even further behind. Right.
Further behind.
Right.
But they had this program we called it Chapter 1. And this program, you if you're, like I was insufficient in I was struggling in reading. So they'll take you out, put you in this group, and then you learn skills like you're technically in kindergarten. It's like, it was really like, why am I here? Right? Because it was really never dealing with what my issue was.
Right.
So now that teacher, because I was so good at math, I was a borderline reading. That teacher, now passed me to the 6th grade. Now the 6th grade, I'm all over the place. Now I got multiple classes. And these multiple classes, reading was one of the classes. So now I have to focus on this particular subject. So my reading teacher noticed, hey, it's something going on with Kalila, Talk to the other teachers. So now they're testing me to find out what's going on. So as the results came back that I had severe dyslexia. So one of the teachers, now we're talking about the, as you say, the needle in the brain. Kalila, I don't know how you made it this far. I don't know how you will be able to make it in society with the level that came back in regards to your reading capabilities. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm a failure. So not only getting this information from a teacher, an educator, but now I'm getting picked on by my family members. So because the family members are the worst. It's just no filter, right? So it's like, oh, you're dumb, you're dumb, you're dumb, you're dumb, you're dumb. So all my life at that moment was, I'm proving to you that I'm not.
Absolutely.
So what I had to do, now we're going back to the skill that you're talking about, but what Allah has blessed me, blessed every person with, was identifying, okay, there's a problem. Now the solution is, how can I solve this problem and become successful? So I never went anywhere to find out, okay, I knew that I was diagnosed, but the treatment I never had. But I did know this. I knew that I had to read. So what I always did in every class, I got the book in advance. I said, I need this book. Sometimes I even paid for the books, or I stole the books from other people that was in the upper
I stole
level.
books too, sister. Don't feel bad.
So
I did too.
But I learned how to master the reading techniques in my head in order for me to be peer-to-peer with my peers when I started going to these schools. That's the first thing I did. The second thing I did is I actually transferred myself out of a black neighborhood school into a white neighborhood school, because I said, you know what? These white folks going to teach me. I want to know what these white people are getting taught. So I transferred myself over to a white school, and I actually got taught a more better, because guess what? They care about theirs more than they care about ours, right? So not only that, now my skill level has expanded. Now I have mastered the skill of learning how to read, and so now, I'm a senior now, right? And so it's like, okay, well, you got this or you got this. What are you going to do? I said, you know what? I'm going to college. Ha, girl, you ain't go to college, girl. You can barely read. So I was like, okay. So I end up going to college, end up getting my bachelor's degree. But I say this story to say, because this is a reality.
It is.
That a lot of our children now is suffering from, and now as adults, because if an adult like myself had the same similar situation, got the needle, succumbed to what was told to them at the 6th grade, and now they probably have dropped out in the 7th grade because it's not a chance.
And see that, Sister Kalila, that's what happens. Like when I hear your story, you had the will, right, to take the needle out of your brain that the teacher put in.
Right.
And then because you knew what the issue was, you worked overtime
Right.
to overcome that issue without the help of your family, right?
Yes, sir.
Without the help of the educational system, everybody that was supposed to. And see, you are an exception to the rule. And see, there are, all throughout our community, there are exceptions to these rules, but the masses of our people in that similar situation, like you just said, they like, man, I ain't never gonna be there. Now my family riding me. Oh, I'm done. I ain't even going to school. I'm just hitting the block, because now if I bring this money home, if I pull up in this right here, and I get out, you're not gonna have nothing to say, because look, you broke and I got this. I can't read, but I can read the block. I can read, what I'm saying? I can do that, right?
Right.
So I mean, and that's real, because it's like we don't, nobody wants to be made fun of. Nobody wants to think that they're a failure. So if I can't succeed at school, I'm going to find something that I can succeed in, whether it's sports, right? Whether it's selling drugs, whether it's doing whatever. And so that's real. So there are exceptions to the rule, but the masses of our people are not, are victims, You talked about going to a white school. Right. In a lot of these schools, the white schools, because you're in that environment, you're going to receive the better education. Not that they care about your children.
No, not at all.
Somebody right now in DC, that's where I'm going to take my child.
Right.
And your child is going to suffer racism and be wondering, like, coming home, like, why the hell did my mama send me here? Like,
right.
Thank you.
So, see, the thing that we have to accept that we don't want to accept is the responsibility to educate, because the responsibility is a big responsibility.
Right.
That's right.
Accept the education of our own children. So we would rather let somebody else do it, and now we deal with the fallout rather than accept that responsibility to educate our children on ourselves and do right by our children. So when I heard your story, it's very beautiful, and the willpower to overcome all of those various challenges. And I know you had given us the quick version.
Right, that was definitely the quick version.
3rd grade to 12th grade in like 2 or 3 minutes. So that's the quick version. But the fact that you overcame those challenges is beautiful. We have to work. There's a little more tools in education now. But again, if you don't have the concern and the care and the love and the compassion, the tools don't matter. The tools don't matter if that's not there. You know what I'm saying? So. And you don't have educators that are in these places that care about our children.
Right.
But the masses of our people, the needle has been put in the brain.
Yes.
And what happens is that they hear the teaching, some of them, and they wake up and realize, what has happened, Right. So, but we have to be proactive in educating our children. But definitely, Sister, thank you for sharing. And, but that's why, like, to your point, Sister Michelle,
yes.
The parents have to be the advocates.
That's right.
And if they don't, then you're just left to some people who may or may not care about your child.
Right.
The parent cares. We know you care as the parent. The person you sending your child to, it's like they may or may not, right?
Right.
So we don't know what's going to happen sending our children to somebody who may or may not care about them.
Right.
And there's a book, I'm sure, and I've said it on the show before, but there's a book, you might have already heard about it, Brother Abdul. It's called Set Up for Failure. It's those two brothers that wrote a review, I think it's through the Harvard Review, where they talk about, how we literally systematically set up based upon what I say about you, or how I feel about you, or my perception of you, and I go and say that to the next person, right? So, so we talk about education, right? But if I have a child that may be struggling, right, in a classroom, and I go and he's acting up, and I go and tell the other teacher before he gets to her class how he was, right? So we're already creating biases and creating another clutch on why education becomes tough for our babies.
And let me add this, Sister Michelle. Based on the research, it says that for every one bad teacher, your child needs 4 good teachers to make up for the damage
My
of
God.
one bad teacher. So now I just want all the parents here to imagine from when you thought you sent your child to the public education system and from kindergarten through 12th grade, how many bad teachers did they have? When I was teaching in high school, like I would get them back when they became seniors, right? So when I got them, they now I turned them back towards education, but how many bad teachers did they have before they got to me? Right.
Wow.
So for every one bad teacher, it takes 4 good teachers to make up every one bad one. So that's the kind of environment that we're putting our children in when we send them to be educated by people who don't love us. And this is why we have to accept the responsibility to educate our children. It's also, but we have to accept it. We've accepted it in the nation. And many of our people have accepted it. Many of our people have moved to educate their own children. They don't want to send their children to the public school system. And the reason is because of the work that we've done in the Nation of Islam prior to 75, and even with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that our people are beginning to see that independent education is the way to go so that we can produce the product that we want, you know. And I will say this, that, and I have to say this, that when the civil rights leaders were fighting to integrate schools, it really wasn't so that Black children could go to school with white children. That really wasn't. That's what, when white people got involved in the fight, that's what they made it, right? They got involved, as always, in your struggle and then turned your struggle from where you had it going to where they wanted it to go. The fight wasn't to get Black children to sit next to white children. The fight was that we want, meaning Black people, we wanted to control the financial resources in the districts where we were the majority. So you had districts all throughout the South where Black children were the majority in those districts, but the white people controlled the financial resources for districts where Black children were the majority. So rather than break bread, right? Rather than give up the access to those financial resources, then what happened? The white people joined the struggle and then made it about Black children sitting in the same class with white children. But even to this day, it's 2022, and Black people do not have control in educational districts, financial control in educational districts where their children are the majority. Because we were hoodwinked, as Malcolm said. We were bamboozled and run amok. We was had in the field of education, and they made it seem as though sending our children to a school with a white child, that was the goal of the civil rights movement, but we didn't have control. We gave control away when we did that.
Ain't that something?
You know, I want to touch bases on homeschooling, and I want to also touch bases with socializing. So when you're dealing with homeschooling, which to me is one of the best home educational tools that is offered now. However,
you have a lot of options for our children.
However, there is a lot that I also wanted to add, but I wanted your opinion as well, because you did touch on it about social skills. Because a lot of our children who are homeschooled, some of them lack the social skill as it relates to a society. So when they do come out in this world, they're kind of lost. You know, educated minds, I mean, A+, right? But social skills, I mean, failing tremendously. Can you touch on that?
So what I would say is that one of the things that parents are doing is they're forming homeschool co-ops, because that's the issue with a lot of homeschoolers, right? It's that they have this, it's like an imbalance, right? They're highly educated, but then they don't know how to kind of relate to anybody, right? So one of the ways that parents are dealing with this is by forming homeschool co-ops. So for example, you may have 10 parents, it may be 12, 15 children or more than that, right? And there are certain activities that they do as groups. So if there's like a gym, the gym activity or pool or learning how to swim, right? They'll do, or whatever, or field trips, right? So you have these Black parents all across the country who are forming homeschool co-ops, and the co-op is to give their children the opportunity for those social interactions that you're talking about. They'll do graduations. And I think that's one of the ways to overcome, because that is real. Because we, my wife and I, we did homeschool for a while and at different times. And that's one of the things that we noticed. So, but the co-op was kind of developed to kind of address that. So that's what I would suggest to people who are doing the homeschooling is get with some other Black parents that are homeschooling, form the co-op, plan some activities that the children can do together. In a big city like Chicago, it's not hard. You know, you have 30, 40 children or more as a part of the co-op from different homeschools. But I think that would be a good way to deal with that. And then, you know, so that's what I would say about that. But I would also say, brothers and sisters, that, you know, we live in Satan's world. That's the world we live in. Satan's world wants to ruin our children.
Exactly.
You, as the parent, you get the first crack at them. Satan don't get the first crack at them.
That's right.
You get now, if you don't take advantage of the crack that you get, that's not Satan's fault. Because you have them. They're in your house. If you sitting them down in front of TV instead of talking to them, because you so stressed, you giving Satan the first crack at your child, when really if everybody's eating dinner in their room and not sitting down at the table and talking as a family, and they on Facebook, and well, they're not on your church, they're not on Facebook.
Right. Well, I have a 27-year-old. Look, I'm
on Instagram. Facebook,
right, Instagram.
I'm just gonna put it out there. I just kind of reveal my age saying Facebook. I'm sorry, young people.
Right.
No time on me. They on TikTok, right, and all these, and Instagram and all the other social media, but they not with the family. So you can't talk to them. You can't share with them. You can't give them some of the knowledge that you've been taught, right? You can't warn them about Satan's world, right? They waiting to get out of your house to get in it because you're not warning them about it. But we live in Satan's world, and we got to give our children. We have to let our children know. Look, now, children, they're gonna do what they do.
Right.
Don't keep your mouth closed about the world that they live in.
That's right.
People say this. They say, look, man, I ain't gonna, man, you talk to these children, it goes one ear and out the other. I've been dealing with children my entire adult life. That's not true.
That is not true.
It appears as though it goes one ear and out the other, because what people want is, they're so vanity, right? Vanity makes them say, man, I talked to them, and because I talked to them and they didn't change immediately, then they not listening. That's crazy. What nature, what works like that? Show me something in nature that's natural where there's an instant change. Right. You plant a seed, there ain't something coming up tomorrow, right?
Right.
There's nothing in nature that's instant. Everything in nature, it takes time to get to the point where you want it to be. So are your children any different? Now, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I'm gonna talk about it right now. Because when we educate a child, we have to bring the brain research in on the education of children, right?
Right. That is
what does the brain research say? The brain research says that in children, right, up to like 21, that their frontal lobe is not developed. So since the frontal lobe is not developed, then they make irrational decisions, right? Since the children, your teenagers, they sleep all the damn time. Excuse my language, but they sleep all the time.
Yes.
And the reason is because their brains are very active and they need more rest. We just think they're lazy, but teenagers actually do, because of the higher activity of their brain, they actually need more rest. The higher activity of their underdeveloped brain, right? So now, because the brain, now if you look at the brain, we know that there's all these connections in the brain, right? And that the more you do a thing, the more you make something a habit, you're forming the connections in the brain, right? And once that connection formed, right? I wake up at 5 o'clock, right? So I'm forming the connection in my brain. So now I don't need an alarm clock at a certain point. This happened to you, right? At a certain point, now my body just gets me up. Why? Because I formed the connection. And when the connection is formed, right? At a certain point, when you do it over and over and over, right? This is the power of habits.
Right.
Now the brain puts wax, right? There's a wax that goes over the connection that was formed in the brain to seal the connection in the brain. So now it's sealed in the brain. You got me?
Got you.
So with
Wow.
us, the reason you talked about adult learners, the reason it's harder to teach an adult than a child is because in the adults, those connections have already been formed and the brain has already sealed those connections with wax, right? In the child's brain, the connections are still being formed, right? So now what is the role of the parent in helping to form the connection in the child of the brain, in the child's brain? When the child makes a mistake, we talked about this, they're going to make mistakes. When you sit that child down instead of beating the hell out of them, when you sit them down and talk to them,
Right.
and walk them through what they did or didn't do and what they did right or wrong, right? You're helping the child to form connections in his or her own brain. But if you just beat the hell out of them, and you may still beat them, right? But if you don't talk to them, you're not helping them.
Right.
To form the connection in their brain. So if we live in Satan's world and we know we live in Satan's world and we don't sit our children down and talk to them about the world that they live in, then we're not helping them to form the connections in their own brain about the world. We look for an instant, right? So what happens if we talk to them and help them to form the connections in their brain, which is our job as parents?
Right.
Then when they get in a situation, now they're pulling on what? They're pulling on what you said.
Right.
They may go against it. You don't beat them up. You may beat them up. But then after you do that, you sit them down and talk to them, right? And help them form the connections in their brain, right? Because the frontal lobe is not developed.
Right.
So then at a certain point when they get in their early 20s, because you did what a parent is supposed to do, you warned them about Satan's world, you talked to them, you guided them, you did all of that, you helped them form connections in their brain. Once their brain is now developed and connections are formed, they start acting totally different. It's not magic.
Right.
If you did what the parent, but now if you said, man, I said that one time, it's just one ear and out the other, you don't understand science.
Right.
You don't understand your role to help your child form connections in his brain. But the white man understands.
Right.
Your enemy understands brain science that we don't understand. So what do? They feed your children weed. Why? Right. Like, talk to your children. They listening right now. Damn, you gonna talk about weed, Brother Abdul? I'm talking about it right now. Man, I thought, but see, Brother Abdul, well, I ain't, you bust me out from my mama, but see, the weed helped me to no, it doesn't. Stop, brother. Stop.
I hear it all the time.
What the child does not realize, see, the enemy knows that you, 17, 18, 19, your brain is not fully developed. He doesn't want he wants you to stay in that childlike stage so he can control you, so he can have your life limited. So he feeds you marijuana because marijuana destroys the brain's ability to make those connections in children, in young people. See, if an older person smokes marijuana, your connections have already been made. The brain has already sealed those connections with wax. So you smoking weed just to be a fool, right? But now the young person is smoking weed, and now when you talk to them, and it's like glaze, right? It's like that glaze because the marijuana has destroyed the brain's ability to make those connections. You understand? So he feeds you weed, right? He feeds you, or every phone, right? That like they just came out with a phone last year. Does everything, the 24K pictures, 10,000K video, all that. And then the white man adds a new feature. Yeah, we put a button on the top to turn the light on. So now you throw the phone that you just put $1,000 for in the trash can, or you trade it in. And now he added one feature, right? Charge you another $200 because a button on the top, right? And now you got, but why is it so important to have you with it? Because why? The reason is because the enemy understands brain science. The cell phone, right? From now, the reaction. You may not know the science, but you parents know the reaction. Because when you tell your child, give me that phone, you ain't done no, give me that damn phone right there. Right. And so what happened? Then now the child is like mad, right? And they're not gonna raise their hand because they know you'll break them in half. Right. But the child reacts in an unrational way. Why? Because when you have the phone, it stimulates all of the senses in the brain, right? So it's a touch screen. So it's the touch. The only thing that's not stimulated is smell, but that might be coming in the next iPhone.
Oh my
You don't
God.
know. But now the touch, right? The touch is so important, right? And then the various colors and the light. So what happens when you have it happens to us as adults?
Well, mesmerized.
It's met, but the brain releases endorphins, right? The pleasure chemical is released in the brain. You, some of y'all watching right now. You pick up your phone, you in a meeting, you pick up your phone and you immediately feel at ease. And like what? Why? Because the brain releases endorphins because the touch, the sight, the whatever, the constant motion, right? The music or whatever it is. Now, if I tell you, give me that is releasing the pleasure chemical in your brain.
My God.
Now, I work in schools and I confiscate phones, right? I have stacks of them on my desk. And I have students that have tried, I'm not going to give y'all all the stories, but the enemy understands the brain science that we need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So they feed our children the exact opposite of what they need because they understand this. We need to understand. So when we say sit down and talk to your children, that's extremely important. And warning them about Satan's world, because once they get in it, it's like a web. It's hard to get out. The thing is not to get in it, and then you don't have to worry about getting yourself out. They may be not socially acclimated to this world, right?
Right.
But if we're trying to get and just talk to them and tell them what you're trying to do, and understand that their brain is not fully developed, but you just keep talking to them, right? And when they become young adults and those connections are now made and they start to see, then they're going to come back and tell you, Mama, you was right. Mama, they'll come back and tell you. But if you say, I'm just one in, you'll never listen, then it's you that don't understand your child. We need to embrace them. We need to talk to them. We need to do all of those things. And I'm going to say this, and I know this was a long answer, but in that brain science is also about giving our children the right foods. The enemy is attacking so you have the foods with monosodium glutamate and salt and all of these additives and preservatives, and all of those chemicals, right? All of those chemicals impact the brain in a negative way. So everything, and I just have to be honest, everything that we're taught in the nation is a solution to what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
But making sure that your child that you're homeschooling, you're not feeding them junk food, you homeschooling them to keep them away from the influence of the enemy. What you put in front of them in front of television, right? You let them sit on their phone all day, right?
Right.
You letting them eat bad, like we have to be holistic in our approach to teaching our children and tell our children, talk to our children and teach them why we're doing this. And they're not gonna be with it right away. They're children.
Right.
But at a certain point, when their brains develop and they make those connections, then they'll see the benefit of what we've been trying to do.
To Allah. So I'm gonna try to land this ship, and I want to give you one last question.
Last question. I'm gonna make the answer quick.
Take your time.
No. But this will help close us out because I think this is a good thing. So this question is, what are some of the tools, right? And this will sum up, right, what we're talking about now. What are some of the tools that you have learned as a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and a student in the Nation of Islam that helped you to become an effective teacher and administrator?
That is a great question, sister. Like I said in the very beginning, I would not be the teacher I am. I would not be the administrator I am if it wasn't for me coming in the Nation of Islam and learning as a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Everything that I've done, the college didn't give me what I have. The college, everything that we talked about, I didn't get none of that from no college. College does not teach that. It's from being a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The way that I've been blessed to be able to go in the classroom and impart knowledge the way that I do is from being a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It does come from, of course, in that, any student is going to experiment, right? That's part of it, right? You're going to you know, you're going to experiment. If I'm a boxer and then my teacher tells me, oh man, throw the jab like this, right? Then I'm experimenting with that jab and then move your body, you know, all of that. So part of that is experimentation and learning what best fits for you as the student. But now if you didn't have that teacher,
right,
then you would have never knew how to throw the jab and even experiment with other types, you know. So the teacher is critical,
right,
to the learning process. So I would have to say, and I know you who are not followers of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I know that you say, man, y'all just be talking about Farrakhan. It's like y'all worship Farrakhan. And that's not what it is.
right.
It's not that we worship only Allah. But we understand that God raised up the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and to teach us and to open up the gifts and talents that's within each and every one of us. When I was a high school student, I wasn't the best high school student. And when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't go to college. I want to be a teacher. I never had. My mother always, boy, you should be a teacher. But she was telling me that because she said, well, teachers always have a job. You know, your mama's
right. Yeah.
You got money and you got a job.
Work for the post office. You always have mail, right?
So that's, you know, it's for the moms, it's just about security, right? So I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do. I was confused like most young people. And it wasn't until I joined the Nation of Islam that journey is the thing that made me say, as a college student, that I'm going to change my major from what I was saying was business management. I was just saying that, but I'm going to change my major to education. So I graduated in education, came to Chicago and worked in the educational field. And of course, you know, I won the Teacher of the Year award for the city of Chicago as a very young teacher because of what I was taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, transposing that into the classroom. I was nominated for Who's Who. If you talk to my students, if you are like, every time we go out in the streets, myself and the math doctor, Brother Shahid, every time we go anywhere in Chicago, it's somebody, Mr. Muhammad, and it's either me or him, right? Because of those relationships that we built with the students in the city of Chicago. So I would say to anybody who is interested in being an educator, that study the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's messages on education. He did one at Christ. I was at the one that you all played in 2011.
Yeah, I saw you in the audience.
Front row. And I'm just gonna plug How to Live real quick because I still look the same. Now that was 2011. This is 11 years later. Y'all, everybody that's watching, go back, right? Look at the video, go back. I'm plugging How to Live right now because it works. That was in 2011. This is 2022. You say, how does this brother still look the same? The answer is How to Live.
That's right.
But study the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's messages on education that he's done, and he's done several.
Right.
Because what he teaches is going to elevate your art. That's right. As an educator. So that's what I would say. And I'm living proof, and we have other brothers and sisters that are living proof as well. I know that the hour is late. Some of my answers have been long.
No, you've been good. No,
you're good. You're good. But I
told you all that I was the Floyd Mayweather of education. You know, so, I hope that I proved it tonight.
You did. You definitely proved it. You know, and I don't know if you want to stay on, but we have what we call a Tree of the Week.
Okay.
And the Tree of the Week today, well, we have to, hold on, before we do that, oh, we already got it up. I was going to put it up, but anyway, I already got it up. So the Tree of the Week today is Iqra. And that basically simply means read in the name of thy Lord. Okay. Education is the key. Now, keep in mind, Iqra means read in the name of thy Lord, right? But I just added the education is the key.
Right.
And let me express why education is the key. Okay. Education is the key because it develops you with problem-solving skills for you to prosper and have a happy life, right? You can give back to the community when you're educated, right? And not just, the negative things but positive things, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us in regards to giving back to our communities, in regards to reading and educating yourself. Creating the bridge that actually, like Minister Abdul spoke about, that bridge to elevate your mind to where you become more positive in your approach to things in life, right? Creating equal opportunity, right? We always say that, we're so used to being the servant, but why we can't be at the table? Well, sometimes we can't be at the table because we're not educated enough to be at the table, right? So creating that equal opportunity. Also opening up your horizon. Now that when you're dealing with, education and educating yourself, you're actually, like that, like when they specify, when you open up a book, it's like wings.
Absolutely.
It's like you're opening up that gate to where, only you and Allah can go, right? And then the last thing is, it makes you confident and self-sufficient. So I wanted to leave that with you all. And Sister Michelle, you can take us out.
Oh, sure. Well, I was gonna leave the last kind of words to Brother Abdul. Is there anything that you'd want to share with the audience before we close out our program for this evening? Because again, I've been thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I'm just in a place where that parent that says everything that you mentioned, I hope everybody takes away from it, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I fought like hell for my children, and I know that I was in the nation at the time.
Right. You knew better.
So that was a foot up on me, right? So I couldn't have done it if I didn't get the training.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Sister, I definitely. Yeah, I just want to say I definitely thank you all for inviting me on the show. Education is my absolute passion, as you can see in the conversation that we've had, and just encourage us across the country who are listening that we have to take the responsibility to educate our children.
Right.
And if we can't, then we definitely have to work with them, debrief them when they come home, and advocate for them in these schools, because they're in some places where the people in the schools, and I can't say that about everybody, but there are some that don't have any love, concern, or care for our children. So I pray that, we answer the questions thoroughly. And, for all of my educators who are getting ready to get back to school as I am, make sure you share with your students the knowledge of who they are, because that is going to open them up and then inspire them to do great things. So again, thank you all. I want to thank my brother. I know he had to leave.
Yes.
Thank you all for inviting me on the show, and give everybody the greetings of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, any promotions, Brother Abdullah, books?
I would say that my website is MTech. Do you want me to share it with you? Or I don't know if you want to on the screen. My website is MTech Films, and I'll give it to you right now. .com. So my DVDs are there. You can order my DVDs. I have a whole host of DVDs on my website. Of course, I'm on Twitter and Facebook. I can give you my the young people, like you said, Facebook again, brother.
Be careful now, brother. Oh my goodness. So yeah.
So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so you all can connect with me on there.
Right.
I definitely just would encourage the parents, just make sure that we're embracing our children, after COVID, talking to our children, helping them to get through, because this is Satan's world. It's not easy. And like, we're older and it's not easy, right?
No.
So imagine if your brain is not fully developed as a teenager and you're trying to deal with all of this madness. They need us. They need our help. So I definitely would just encourage the parents, to be patient and be there with our children.
Praise be to God.
Well, you heard it.
Yes.
And
Thursday night talks. And wait a minute, you make sure you mention it, right? Because we do this out of love. And we want to make sure that every time that we bring someone like Brother Abdul Muhammad to the 7th Region Coalition Thursday Night Talks, that you are thoroughly educated with whatever we bring, because we're only bringing things that we believe that will be of help to you and to your family. So, being said, please support. You can give on our Cash App, which is what, $ 7th Region Coalition. And if
it's
you want
going right down the screen.
There you go.
Michelle.
And if you want to support also too, Brother Abdul, you can send something for him as well.
Absolutely.
Listen, right. I'm sure, right.
I just put it in the chat here.
Put it
Let me put that again. That's his. Yep, I got it down.
All right, perfect. All right. So yeah, if everyone can take a minute, please support, because these things are, again, we all are doing this out of the love, right, for the community and for the people. So whatever you've been able to take from this, share it.
Right.
I have to say Facebook, Brother Abdul. So
right.
Right. So please share from Facebook. We're on YouTube, and we thank everyone this evening for joining in. Tune in next week. Brother Lau will be there. Brother Tony will be there. We'll all be here. And again, thank you so much again, Brother Abdul Muhammad, for coming on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thursday Night Talks. We appreciate you. And
all
we
praise to Allah.
Pray that Allah continues to bless you and your family with success.
Thank you. May Allah bless you as well. And I'm sending my donation right now, and I'm encouraging everybody else to do the same.
Oh, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Thank you to Allah. Well, thank you, everyone. Next Thursday, tune in. As we say, okay, Brother Lau's not here, so we're not a clique, we're not a gang, right? We are the Southern Region Coalition Thursday Night Talk crew. It's only me and Sis Galila right now, but we love you all, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Sir.